Surfside. Super excited to be running another surf sessions today with our good friend and our customer, Bryan Benavides from Pharmacann. Bryan, thank you for joining us. I'm going to do a little quick intro of you, and then I'll let you fill in some color and gaps. But Bryan, from my perspective, you're a leader in this industry in particular. You're a performance marketing and data guy. You oversee a very large operation there now at Pharmacann, close to 60 locations. You can check my math here, across 8 states. Folks in Illinois, New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Maryland would know the Verilife brand on the retail side. In Colorado and Michigan, folks would know the LiveWell brand on the retail side. And then, of course, you have your other remit, which is all the wholesale house of brands that you oversee as well on the digital side. So there's 8 brands there, including brands like Matter and Magnitude, which folks know and love. So it's a big job. There's a lot to do. What did I miss there? What else could you add there on your background and your overall responsibilities at Pharmacann?
No, great. Thanks for the intro. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to speak with you guys. Apologies to everyone with the technical difficulties. Yeah, things have been great. Things have been crazy. Been in the industry for about 4 years. Joined Pharmacann in 2020, right the year when Illinois went rec. So that was boom, right into the mix. Originally, we started with only about 22 to 24 stores in six states. Only 2 of those were recreational. The rest were all of them were medical focused. We've been in the industry for years now. What I came from a more traditional e-com, been doing digital marketing for over 20 years. Very excited to come into this industry and help build and work with all of the OGs that have been in the industry, all of the new opportunities, new tech partners. Surfside obviously has been a big part of that with the data, with a data first mentality and the performance based model that we try to establish by our markets. But yeah, it's like you said, it's a growing industry, it's a crazy industry, and we all wear multiple hats and we're all juggling things. And like I say, we're flying the plane while we're building it while our hair is on fire. And some of us have more hair than others.
Yeah. Well, I cannot compete with you on the top of my head, I'll admit, but I'm working on the below. Mate, thanks so much. Yeah, look, it is. I mean, everyone I'm sure tuning in who's in the industry knows that it is exciting and challenging at the same time, and there's really never a dull moment. Getting into the nitty gritty here a little bit, looking at what you're doing there to be successful, right? Like what you do to attract new customers, to retain customers, to keep them from going to the competitive brand or retailer. High level, what are the practices you've found that are successful in doing that in cannabis marketing?
Mm-hmm. Well, we always like to look at things from the customer point of view, right? And our customer is a patient, a rec customer, obviously, and our customer can also be internal customer as well too. Like we need to make sure that what we're doing from a strategy point of view helps our retail stores, helps our bud tenders, helps efficiently have someone come into the store and check out, right? Online versus in store. We definitely have an omni-channel mentality, from creative to technology to SOPs. Very, very integrated with the entire commercial team here at Pharmacann. Work very closely with the retail side of it, the operational side of it, IT. I'm on multiple calls. So it's like I said, it's juggling everything to make sure that the customer is getting what they can and shop the way they want to. Because as you know, cannabis is very unique for everyone individually. So some people like to shop online. Some people like to talk to a bud tender. You shop differently in Colorado versus New York. And being in 8 markets now, both rec and med, we need to look at all of those variables to make sure we're marketing appropriately. So like we talked about earlier, like at a high level, we're looking at the customer journey and the funnel, right? From awareness to conversion to retention. What are we doing? What are we investing in? How are the customers finding us? What are those pain points? And that we try to optimize. And then from a marketing and kind of media investment point of view, we want to look at the data. We want to understand what's happening with the first touch of the customer, right? Versus the last touch that drove the conversion. And again, I'm a very analytical marketer, so I'm looking at attribution models when I can, when the data is available, to see what's happening and where. And then, like we talked about the performance side of it, we're investing in what's working. So the budget is going to be allocated where we know we can acquire that customer based off of what the needs are for that market or that store location.
Yep. And we're going to talk a little bit later about some of the nuances in some of the states, which you've touched on there. Just specifically, maybe some channels that do or don't work maybe from a digital standpoint? Obviously retail and wholesale being different, but just what are some of the key channels for you that work? And are there any channels that you used in your former roles in consumer electronics and so forth that haven't transpired across?
Well, it's funny that you said that because right when I started, I was the naive guy and I didn't know all the rules and regulations quite yet. So I called up my Google team. I called up my Facebook team in 2020. I'm like, hey guys, new industry, let's go. What are we gonna do? And it's like, yeah, we love you, Brian, but can't touch that industry right now. And I'm like, okay, let's learn all the other rules and regulations. So, as everyone knows that's on the call, that was a wake up call. And then understanding what is allowed by state, by market, and then driving your strategic footprint and your targets and your goals based off of what is possible. So we do dabble, and every market is different, right? Like we do billboards in some markets, we do digital out of home in other markets. Obviously, programmatic media buying with Surfside has been one of the key digital channels for us that have been very, very important. And one of the best things about working with Surfside is the data and obviously the team and being able to optimize based off the strategy. Because I came from, like you said, a consumer electronics background where I had agencies, I had technologies, I had dashboards everywhere. I was able to flip a switch based on the budget, or I needed to move this versus that. And coming to this, it kind of took a step back. So I had to figure out what is allowed and what is not from a retail marketing perspective as well as a digital marketing. And from the e-com, what is the best experience online? Like my goal was to build the best digital experience for e-commerce in cannabis using not just cannabis type technologies, but all types of technology to back again, giving the best customer journey.
Yes, yes. It's interesting as well. We're now sort of getting to that point of normalization a bit where Google are a little bit more open now, and even Meta and these other channels are
Yep.
starting to, not officially, as you know, but the change is coming. We still find, obviously, various forms of programmatic much more effective in reaching a wide audience because of like limitations. But it's funny that after 4 or 5 years now, those things are starting to change, which is
Yep. A
good to see.
lot of people that when I called early in 2021 got a quick no. They're calling back like, "Hey, I know we talked a while ago. We're willing to consider you." And I'm like, "Well, I've already built this over here, but yeah, let's continue the conversation."
Yeah.
So it is interesting because I still try to attend and keep myself in the loop of e-com type networks that I've been in. And it's funny, every time I go to a show or a dinner or take a meeting, everyone wants to pick my brain. Everyone wants to know what the industry is like. They think we're the cool guys, but they don't realize how hard it is and how much work it takes for all these teams, whether you're an MSO or you're a just brand side or you're just a cultivator. It is hard, and props to everyone who's been in this industry for the distance, and I think it's going to pay off very soon for all of us.
Yes, we certainly hope that's the case. And yeah, look, it is an industry like unlike any other, that's for sure.
Unlike, yep.
So we know all these markets, and again, we'll talk about some specific ones in a bit here, but they're unique and they have their own set of challenges in and amongst themselves. That all 8 of your states would be slightly different in some way. So do you find that something that works in one market doesn't always translate to another? Are there any examples that spring to mind?
100%. And again, I think some of them goes based off of regulations, right? I had radio ads in Colorado.
Yeah.
Can't do that in certain other states. I've got loyalty programs here. I can't do that here. I can do this on med here, but rec there. So yeah, there is definitely some testing. And like I said earlier, like people shop differently. You walk into a Live Well in Colorado, you get to smell the bud, you get to see the bud, you want to look at it. In Illinois, you get a jar and you flip it upside down, you see the clear packaging so you could see the bud, right? But then in other markets, it's not like West Coast. It's not on the floor. It's in the vault behind. So there's a lot of different types of um marketing strategies that go based off the consumer behavior.
Well, let's talk about 2 states that are interesting and exciting and opening up currently or have opened up recently. So New York and Ohio,
Yep.
2 pretty different states, period. But in terms of
It's
cannabis
kept me busy the
marketing
last year.
yeah. So A few questions here I'm going to throw at you, and you can answer in your own way. But sort of how have you adapted the strategy as it goes from med to rec?
Mhm.
What practices have you found to be successful in that transitional period when there's a massive rush of new customer acquisition going on and everybody is trying to acquire those new customers and bring them in and keep them loyal? Let's start there.
Okay. I'm going to start with New York because that's New York is we've been in New York for years. We were one of, if not, I believe, the first medical license holder in the state of New York. We have four medical locations in New York: Bronx, Albany, Liverpool, and Amherst. And we were so excited when New York legally went rec. And then all the work had to be done, right? And then a couple restarts, and we all know the story of what happened there. And we saw this as a huge opportunity because at the time there was before it opened up, there was only 38 medical licenses in New York, and we had four of them. So we thought we were going to be able to flip them right away, day one. Boom, reality check, right? What's going to happen? Then a lot of legal things happen, and I want to give props to my compliance team and the leaders there because they helped us figure out what the right path was to where we needed to go. And we also pivoted a little bit in the beginning to focus on our wholesale market, right? We now have we now have some recreational stores in New York as well. We've had a strategy to relocate a few of them for more retail friendly locations, getting out of the med side of it, relocate them with a lot of our rec retail merchandising strategy, and obviously drive consumer awareness. But I would say New York right now is a retail and wholesale opportunity for us. And we've also made some strategic hires and pivots and movements on the wholesale side, which that team now is doing an amazing job for us and getting our name out there. So the Matter name, the Live Well name, the Verilife name, the House of Brands in New York is definitely a huge emphasis for us and a huge opportunity for us to move forward. But like I said, from a compliance point of view, we have to figure out what we can and can't do. And now, I mean, I think a lot of people thought it was just going to be a sprint. And I think you could say that about the whole industry and not just New York, but it's going to be a marathon. It's going to be who's doing it right from the beginning. And I feel like with partnering with the retail team, the compliance team, the wholesale team, we're doing the right things in New York right now to get us out there.
Right.
And now Ohio was also great. We've got three stores there. We had an acquisition a couple of years ago. We Cincinnati is a great footprint for us over there. Great city for us to drive traffic to our Verilife stores, for our Verilife brand. But Ohio, as everyone knows, launched with the adult regulations were matching the medical regulations from a marketing perspective. So again, props to our compliance team. They helped us get us to the path of what we needed to do to understand what we can and can't do based off the stores.
Mhm.
As a lot of people probably know, some people got their hands slapped, some people didn't. We were following the regulations as much as we could. And what we try to do is obviously just educate the customer. Excuse me, because education is huge when you're transitioning from a medical to rec, right? Like you don't know how many people showed up at our store when the local news in Cincinnati said cannabis is now legally adult. So they just think they can show up to the store. It's like, no. They got to get the regulations. We got to get the stores. We got to make sure all the rules are right. So it's education. We're still taking care of our patients. We still need to make sure our customers understand who and what we can do, and obviously give them the best possible experience, from wait times in the store to product inventory to getting them back to the store with a positive experience. So again, a lot happening in both stores, a lot of changes in those states, but it's still not done, right? There's still more to come in both of those states, and actually all of our states, but Ohio and New York are part of our strategy of growth moving forward.
Awesome. Yeah, when we're seeing such exciting signs in both states, New York is the interesting one, particularly for you and the other MSOs, right? Because you were delayed. You were held back in some ways
Mhm.
from going rec. You had a lot of folks obviously get into the market before you. Before we move on from New York, is there anything that you were able to do to sort of play catch up and try and get to where those folks were a year or two ahead of you?
Well, I think we were also looking at it from the two different channels, the retail to the wholesale, right? The wholesale side of it, we're building the marketing strategy, working with a commerce media type opportunity, investing in that. Again, finding the customers where they're shopping, when they're shopping. We had the mentality of feet on the ground. Again, props to the wholesale team. We were traveling the state. We were in the cars. We were taking the meetings. We were building our brand there from a wholesale perspective, and it's been working. And what we need to do again is invest in what's working. Like a commerce media, again, we are able to target the customer regardless if they're shopping on a Verilife website. We can target them on other third-party websites to give them the products and the experience that they want. And again, they might not have known the Matter brand or the P3 brand or the hashtag hash brand, but we have the tools now to educate them and get our brands in front of everybody.
Awesome. I love that. We'll talk a bit more about that coming up as well. Shifting to Colorado. So, Surfside, we work with retailers and brands across the country. Each state, as we keep saying, has its own story. Colorado is, for most folks, so I want to hear from you on this. For most folks, it's pretty challenging there right now, particularly on the brand side, but the retailers as well, right? There's a number of market dynamics that go into that. So for you, for Pharmacann, for LiveWell, what have you learned about that market and why are you successful there? What are you doing that is different to keep you successful in a really challenging state?
Definitely challenging. And just to let everyone know, we acquired the Live Well retail and cultivation brand from Colorado about 2 years ago. So there definitely have been a period of transition from combining best SOPs to teams to processes to the house of brands, right? The Live Well had their brands, Verilife had their brands. We had a great opportunity, and I think that the marketing and the brand team and our agency partners did an amazing job consolidating them for us to now have just a solid brand that goes across all 8 states, a solid house of brands that go across all 8 states. And yes, it is challenging market, right? It is a very mature market. It is a much different market than an East Coast market like a Massachusetts or a New York, right? So we need to adapt, and the marketing had to adapt to the type of customer that they are. There's less online ordering in Colorado. Okay. Wake up call to me, the digital guy, right? I want to optimize livewell.com. I want to drive all the traffic to the site. People want to see the product. People want to see it. They want to smell it. It's convenient. There's more dispensaries in Denver than in Chicago. So again, understanding what the customer is doing and allowing them to shop the way they want to, it was kind of a little bit of shift from a marketing perspective, but working with partners and driving the traffic and again, looking at the data to understand what's happened gave us the opportunity to invest in what we wanted to do. So we have a great LiveWell team out there, great retail, great footprint. We did a full rebrand about a year and a half ago. I think what we came up with was perfect for the industry, right? And our brand is now Cannabis for All. We're trying to build cannabis for everybody, regardless if you are looking for that high quality craft product, we have it. If you're looking for that inexpensive everyday flower that you might be on a tight budget, we have that for you under all of our house of brands. So we're trying to then again educate our customers to know that the LiveWell brand has changed a little bit, but it still is loyal to what Colorado was. And it was established in 2009, and we're not moving away from the roots, and we're sticking to that and what we want to do in Colorado.
2009. Whew. Just feels like so long ago, doesn't it? Especially in this industry. That's ancient, really.
Oh yeah, I think I launched an affiliate network in 2009 back in the day.
2009. I was running around New York selling social media advertising back then.
Yeah, you
Long
were
time
probably
ago,
pitching.
Brian, long time ago. Last question, pivoting, and this is, pivoting from retail now and looking more at wholesale. And again, I find this one of the most fascinating parts of our business and the industry and folks in roles like yourself, where you've got a foot in both camps, right? You've got your retail stores, you've got your wholesale brands, you've got those wholesale brands being sold in your retail stores and in other third-party retailers. So there's just so many prongs to that strategy, which I think is a huge opportunity, and you guys are nailing it, but really challenging, right, as well. So we talk about Matter, we talk about, is it hashtag hash or is it just hash?
Hashtag hash, yes.
Hashtag hash. And
Yep,
P3
it's our
now,
concentrate brand, yes.
that's the concentrate brand. So they're sold in Verilife and LiveWell stores, as I said, but also, across a huge network of third-party retailers that are independent businesses and dispensaries around the country. So three things I want to ask here. The first thing is, when you're on a third-party retail menu, how are you finding those right retailers first and foremost, like targeting the right retailers? And then how are you going about, I know this is not directly your role, your team are out there doing it, but you've got to identify the retailers based on certain criteria. You've got to secure the partnership. So how does that process work with Pharmacann?
So, I'll answer that two different ways. One is communication internally, right? Understanding what the strategy is from the wholesale and the brand team as well, and what doors are we currently in, what are we not. We have multiple meetings throughout the week with the wholesale team. I'm working with them almost every day to understand kind of the go-to-market strategy on the brand team as well, using similar assets. Being available for them from like a digital or retail point of view, like in our store, we would treat this brand this way or emphasize it this way on the website, or being able to enhance a third party partner potentially as well. We're happy if someone goes to a third party and asks for one of our product, right? So great. Again, let Anthony, the consumer, shop the way he wants to. If he wants to go to the ABC cannabis store on the corner because it's easier for him to get to, but he really wants that P3 infused joint, great, let him go there. But also understand that you can get that at a Verilife or a LiveWell too. So we want to be able to offer the quality products that we have, regardless of what store they're going into, which is part of the wholesale strategy. But in terms of the retail strategy, we want to emphasize first party as well as our partners. And then you've got rules in place, like in Illinois, like the 60-40 rule. You're only allowed to sell X% of your first party versus third party. So again, it's working together internally, it's getting the product out there and making sure that regardless of the way the customer is shopping, we want to emphasize how and when they can get it and what type of product it is for them to know and educate themselves, right? And I think our brand team is doing a very, very good job coming up with creative assets and material for us to drive that strategy moving forward that we use with the Surfside and with other partners and internally as well.
Nice. I love that. So once you've got the right retailers and you've got your product in there, obviously you need to sell it, you need to acquire customers, and then you want to create some, retention and loyalty on top of revenue. Can you talk through some of the tactics that you're employing both in store and e-commerce? Because as you touched on, right, there's two types of shoppers, different states have different breakdowns. So once you're in there, how are you making sure that product sells through and that people come back and buy it again?
So the in-store is part of our transition period, moving from a lot of our states and from a medical to a rec, right? We've made an investment in relocating some of our locations, which also means giving the store a beautiful facelift, right? Our in-house merchandising team, she's been amazing, the head of that team. She's got it to a pat. She knows what she needs to do. I mean, all of our new stores are beautiful, and props to her, right? Emphasizing the first priority, the apparel side of it, the accessories, our third-party partners that we definitely want to emphasize as well too. So again, making sure that people understand the type of products that are out there, because as we all know, when you walk into a dispensary, I always hear, "This is my first time here. I have no clue what I'm doing." Like I've seen people walk in like so shy and scared, and we like to take that opportunity to turn that into a positive, right? We want to be able to educate them. And I've also, and probably everyone else has heard nightmare stories, right? Like a bud tender recommended me a 10 milligram for the first time. No, that's why they won't touch cannabis anymore. So again, understanding and educating. And then there's some people who just want, hey, I want the highest potency. Great, I got that for you too. But again, to drive the transition and to be a retail location, CPG partner, digital market, e-com strategy, we're normalizing things as much as we can so that the consumer can shop the way they want. And again, I keep saying that.
Yeah. What it's true though. And it's funny, it's common now in other e-commerce. It's just like you and the other leaders of this industry are normalizing, I guess, is the word, right, that you used, and just bringing in what is to many to many degrees tried and tested in other e-commerce. Obviously, it's got to be
Mhm.
a twist because of all the nuances we're talking through
Of
here.
course, regulations drive it all. Yes.
Absolutely. And this finally on the e-com side though. So you're in a third-party retailer. How do you get, there's obviously, as you've just touched on, right? People are overwhelmed by choice. They don't know product to buy. There's not a lot of brand loyalty yet because people are still figuring out what the right brand is and what the right SKU is and what the right product is. So how do you get their attention in an e-com standpoint when maybe they're brand new and they don't know any of your brands?
So, from an ecom point of view, I try to implement obviously ecom as best practices 101, right? Just think about what increases conversion rate, right? And I drive that mentality for my team. Less clicks, higher conversion rate, right? We need to merchandise the website. We need to put product higher above the fold. We need to make it mobile first friendly. We need to merchandise properly based off of our promos. We need to make it easy to add to cart and check out, right? Like that's part of the whole solution, right? It's getting them on the site or the journey, getting them on the site, getting them to check out, right? Now they're going to visit our store to transact. And when they're in the store, we still want a positive experience. They might also want to add to the product or to the cart. How do they do that? Do they go to the POS and do that? Do they want to put another order in the kiosk? Do they want to talk to the bartender to say, hey, I loved the P3 blunt. What else do you have similar to that, right? So engaging with the customer and allowing them to engage if you want, because other people are be like, I want to be in and out as soon as possible. I'm going to leave the car running in the parking lot and get out. Other people, specifically in the medical markets, want a consultation. They want to talk. Really? Like these gummies helped my chronic back pain. What else do you think we have? Right? Again, in some states we require some medical staff on to assist in these types of questions, right?
Yeah.
We need to make sure we have some pharmacists available in some of our markets for these types of questions. So again, compliance is driving one of our compliance and regulations are driving some of our marketing strategy, but overall, we're trying to get again the right product, right person, right time.
Awesome. And finally, commerce media ads are part of that. Your brands, you're activating that on third parties. Can you talk a
Yep.
little bit about how that's been? Because it's early days, but we're growing and expanding.
100%. And I think it goes back to my one of my original statements. And it, honestly, it was one of the original conversations I had with Surfside like 3+ years ago with Eric. It was what tools do we have to drive e-com traffic, whether it's our side or not. It's bringing best practices from outside of the industry that we know have worked, like targeting a third-party menu, right? Optimizing it, personalizing based off of data, understanding POS data versus transactional versus behavioral data, using that to optimize that, right? Because if Anthony Green will not inhale anything, but he only eats, why show him a product of pre-roll? Let's just show them all of the edibles. So using the data that you have, first party, zero party, to emphasize and personalize things is a great example of how we work with commerce to use what we have already to be smarter. So again, it's be smarter, play or work smarter, not harder. But sometimes it's both. But we need to understand again using your data, your first party. No one else has that data. That is the lift you have. That is the advantage you have against your competitors. Use it the right way. And that's kind of the mentality we have.
100%. Love that. Folks listening in, if you got any questions for Brian, please feel free to enter them in the little Q&A box. We've got a couple that have come in already, actually. So, Brian, first question here is, let me pull it up. What are you most looking forward to in 2025? I assume that refers to related to cannabis and advertising, but feel free to answer that any way you like.
Growth. And growth internally and growth within the industry, right? I was just at the Benzinga conference last week here in Chicago. Heard some great some great panels, very optimistic panels, right? We're in a hard time right now, right? It's riding the wave. And I think a lot of us that have been here for a couple of years are understanding where this wave is eventually going to get us to, but we're taking the hits and we're bouncing back. But I'm very excited to see where we're going with, like we talked about earlier, New York and Ohio. I'm very excited to see where the wholesale side of the business is going to drive, because that's been amazing for us. And I'm also excited to see what type of regulations get adjusted, and what we can and can't do. I think some places are getting less strict. Some places are getting more detailed and allowing us to find that yes, rather than just the easy no regarding channels and investments. And I think we're growing up, right? We're understanding really what the markets are doing and how they're evolving. And I think we're doing the smartest thing that we can right now to drive that positive customer experience.
I love the optimism, because we don't get that from everybody. Some people are
Yeah.
struggling, and when you're riding a wave, Brian, that's obviously when you want to be with Surfside, of course. All right, some questions coming in. Anonymous attendee: what types of advertising are you doing in Ohio? There's been many hurdles on my end getting digital print campaigns approved by the state compliance.
Yeah, the state approval process is not the easiest. Again, props to the compliance team internally to help us with that. Um, I just had an approval come through my inbox that I've been waiting months for. And again, it's not easy. But my recommendation with you is work with your compliance team, get the translation and the regulations of what you can and can't do. We have invested in some media with Surfside programmatically. We do have to get state creative or creative approved by the state. So I would say try to do that as soon as possible, especially with holidays coming up. Get some templates in front of them that maybe you could just adjust some promos. Using our internal database as well. Email marketing, it's true to my heart. I love it. It's such a powerful tool. If done correctly, try to acquire as many opt-ins as possible at every step of the journey. POS versus online, you need to be able to, or text messaging as well, which is also very, very difficult in this industry. But try to personalize a one-to-one with them, right? Understand who they are. And especially if you've gone from a medical store to a recreational adult store, non-medical, then you have loyal customers that have been there. Don't forget about them. The med patients are still extremely important to us, and they need to be treated appropriately, because I hate it when all of a sudden I get a one-star review going, they hate med patients now, or they only care about adult. No, we care about everybody, and we need to make sure everyone's got a positive experience.
Yep, I love that. Tommy, our old friend Tommy Ramos asks, what is the next market or state that Pharmacann's looking at? If you can disclose that, Brian, that could be confidential.
I mean, we're always looking at opportunities. There isn't anything solid there in terms of opening up in a ninth or 10th state. There again, we're always open. There's always a possibility that we could expand, but I think there's too much work to be done right now in the current 8 markets. So we're focusing on building up on those markets, investing in what works right now, and expansion within those 8 markets as well. I mean, Pennsylvania is a big opportunity for us if it goes rec. Right now, Pennsylvania is the only state that is only medical for us. We have 9 stores right now in Pennsylvania. If that opens up as a rec, there's a lot of work to be done there.
Awesome. You didn't lose me, did you? You've frozen for me. Am I good?
Oh,
There we go.
are
Am
you
I back
frozen or am
now?
I, Anthony?
That was me. Am I back now? You got me now? Can you hear me? Brian, can you hear me? Damn.
We got you, Anthony. I think it might have been Brian that we
Oh,
lost.
it's Brian who's frozen. Okay. All right. We'll see if he can, if he unfreezes. At least he's smiling. Oh, we lost him altogether. Okay. I apologize to Jeremy and Mike, or Brian might be coming back on now. We've got a couple more questions here. Brian, you back?
Oh, sorry, guys. I don't know if that was me or you. I'll take
I don't
take
know
the
what it
blame
was,
for
but
it.
you're back is all that matters. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. We've got 2 more questions. But you look like you're frozen
Sorry
again.
about that.
No worries. Jeremy asks, what data points do you regularly monitor to identify retail brand partners to work with?
So I've got my key KPIs I look at no matter what, right? It's session level data, it's traffic, it's by market. I'm looking if we're looking at specific media, I'm looking at click-through rates. Is it engaging? Is it good enough? What are my overall conversion rates when I'm investing? Is it a CPC model? Is it a CPM model? When investing on like a third party, like a commerce media, I'm obviously looking at the ROI, but I'm also understanding that it's an ROI and it's a transaction for the third party, which is good because they'll sell through my product and buy more. But you also have to understand like that you're driving revenue for your partner over there that's hosting your product. So I'm looking at obviously number of impressions, traffic, how many of my SKUs do they have on their menu right now, and what categories are moving versus not. And again, that's communicating with the wholesale team in terms of what our customers are buying and selling, and then obviously investing in that. But in terms of our e-com, I'm looking at the main KPIs, like Google Analytics, GA4, internal Domo reports, understanding how many online transactions are occurring versus retail, understanding the click-through rate and the conversion rate based off of market, based off of store, based off of channel. Source Medium report is my favorite report in Google, in GA4. So understanding that. And I always ask why, right? Biggest number, smallest number. Why does that happen? Anthony knows this, and everyone on the Surfside team knows, right? What is the biggest number? What did we learn from this win? What did we learn from this negative, I'm making this up, negative number week over week impressions, right? Or conversion rates. So was it a bad creative? Was it a bad call to action? Was it a bad audience? Do we need to move it from a retargeting audience to a customer acquisition model? Maybe. But again, the data is going to help you drive the questions, which then will impact the overall strategy and the implementations.
Love it. I felt like we were on a performance review call there for a second. Last question, and we'll let everyone go. Michael's asking, how do you make contacts and offer your expertise with new dispensaries? In what ways, I guess, do new license holders partner with you? So I guess, do they reach out to you sometimes?
From a wholesale perspective?
I think the question here is, yeah, just new dispensaries, maybe in new markets, and maybe they're looking for great brands to bring on. I think that's the question. So how would that relationship be broached in the opposite direction, I suppose?
No, I mean, I think research and education, but education from both sides of it, right? It's understanding who the players are in the store or in the state. Maybe using some data from like a third party, like a BDSA or a hoodie, to understand like what is the biggest brand out there. Like Matter right now is top 5 in New York, which is amazing. Again, props to the team, to understand who's buying what where. And what's the type of product? Like, what's the demand, right? Is a specific market influencing more towards or leaning more towards a pre-roll versus a vape, right? And then that could also help you understand what products you want to bring in or even cultivate, right? Like Brett Novi, our CEO, was on a panel at Benzinga last week, and I thought it was great the way he spoke about how managing a cultivation, and again, you just think retail maybe instead of cultivation, can pivot based off of what the demand is from the customer, right? And then changing that to say like, ooh, we're very vape heavy store market cultivation processing manufacturing, to now we're going to move over to pre-roll. That takes a lot of work, and that takes a lot of manpower, and that takes a lot of money. So using the data to understand where you're going to invest in first. Again, I'm sorry I keep using the word data, but that's how I manage the team, and that's how I work, and I think that's how we've become successful, because understanding what is happening at the customer level, at the e-com level, at the store level will help you drive what you need. So I know I said that a little bit all over the place, but I hope that answered the question.
No, it makes sense to me. Appreciate all the questions. And look, I introduced you as a data guy, and I wasn't inaccurate in introducing you that way. I mean, that's the fuel of digital marketing, right? We're not in the dark. We know what works and what doesn't, and we can shift and move. So, mate, that wraps us up. I want to thank, first of all the attendees. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for some really great questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them, but we are a little bit over time. You can find Brian on LinkedIn and other social, I'm sure, if you have questions for Brian. We'll circulate this with some follow-up to everybody as well, so you'll get a copy of this. And finally, Brian, just want to say I'm stoked that you joined a surf session. We love working with you. You know, you're a friend and a very important customer at Surfside. Really, really appreciate your time and all your expertise and everything you've shared today. Hopefully we can get you back on another time in the future.
My pleasure. Always happy to help. You guys have been an amazing partner, and thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone who went through our technical difficulties. And feel free to reach out. Honestly, like I'm happy to network. I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to jump on a call. Find me on LinkedIn. Looking forward to it. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome, mate. Thanks so much. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll catch you on the next surf session soon.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Cheerio.
great.